6 o'clock.
So,
We're going to call the public hearing to order. Welcome everybody here again. We're going to have a public hearing now to speak to the calendar. And first off, I want to start this public hearing by telling the teachers that, I apologize for the way that I ran the meeting last time. There were some things said that should have never been said. That won't happen in this meeting. So the way I would like to move forward is if we have any new comments on the calendar, we would like to hear those. If we don't have any new comments, then we really don't want to hear. We've heard that already. So we've heard that, we've processed it. So the floor is open to the public. We did get a letter, I guess you could say, from Doug Baumover talking about current days, proposed days, some hours. I haven't read through the whole thing, and I'm not going to read it now. I'm not going to read it out loud. But it looks like there is a proposal on there, and all of the board members have that in front of them. Does anybody have anything new and refreshing to say about the calendar at this point in time? Do any of the school board members have anything to say about the calendar?
I got a couple questions. One question. The end of the school year, the last day is the 21st. And there's 3 days after that that are listed as non-student teacher work day and or professional development. What are those 3 days going to be used for specifically?
The 22nd is it's to get grades. It's always been a work day at the end of the year. No difference. What we did is we put one of the comments from the public was why couldn't some of this stuff be done with professional development in the summer, and this isn't uncommon actually. So we put 2 days at the end, which is next year's focus will be on K-12 math. During the course of the year, that's what the focus area would be. We can get more specific in the coming days for you. The 26th and the 27th then would be used for unit development as an extension of what has been occurring throughout the course of the year, and or depending on who's in this seat, springboarding into next year. Just to give you, for instance, again, we have at times had summer. These are contract days, which we have all the teachers there. If you were to move those or whatever to do what we want to do, then it would be an additional cost to pay the teachers. That's only fair. So these are contract days built in for professional development to finish off the work that we have been doing and springboard into the following year.
So basically, those last 2 days are going to save us
having to
some additional money in the summertime.
Yes. To go more specific, so when I say K through 12 math, 2 years ago we embarked on a journey with English and language arts with concept-based teaching. On April 1st of this year, we kicked off K-12 discussion, similar in nature to math. There's going to be some differences because mathematics and language arts are different, but that's the process over the next 2 years for this district.
Any other questions or comments?
No.
Really the biggest change in this draft and the previous draft is moving parent-teacher conferences back to the status quo. Previously that was done on 2 consecutive non-student days so that parents could split up. Something had to go, so that went back in, and then we increased instructional days from 168 to 170. I gave you all of the side of the calendar is also what extending the school day looks like with instructional hours. And so that would be a decision that the board will have to make as well.
Hearing no comments from the public, board, do you guys have any other questions?
The only other one that I have is that did we just get away from the Southwest Consortium dates? You know, I look at the, or did those dates change, or are we just not trying to line up with any of those anymore?
We're not trying to line up with them anymore. Something had to go, and so what we did is met internally and asked the question, can we simulate as well or better than what happens at the Southwest Consortium? And we answered the question, yes.
So basically, we feel, just so that anybody that doesn't know, that we can do the job in-house just as well by providing what we are on this calendar, rather than having to meet up.
That's what we're planning,
Yep.
yes. Well said.
Where are we at with the hours over here on the side then? That's something that we have to,
It is.
the minutes added per day. I think that, obviously, in my opinion, the 15 minutes per day, I know a lot of people had things to say about that, but it allows us a lot of flexibility when it comes to where we live and what kind of, how many snow days are we gonna have? You know, we have no clue. How many days is it gonna be too hot to send our kids to school?
Yeah.
I think that that allows for a lot of that. It allows us a much bigger cushion.
How many hours do we have to have? 1080?
Yep. Or 180 days.
If you were to do the 15 minutes per day, what's start time, what's finish time?
Well, what we had, to be determined, but what we had said before was to go from 8:15 to 3:30. There was concern expressed about getting the time getting on a bus in the morning especially. It pushes back practices 10 minutes. That would be my recommendation if that's what the board chooses to do.
If we had any hours, would you always start school, or any minutes per day, would we always start school at 8:15? Is that what you probably recommend? I mean, would that be?
Yeah, you know, Brent, that's a good question, and I don't have a strong opinion. Say it went up you've increased the school day by 5 minutes. If it would be better to start at 8:20 and get out at 3:25, I really don't have an opinion. If we go what, 8:20 to 3:20,
8:20
right?
to 3:20?
Yeah.
3:25.
Oh, is it?
That's what our bill rates.
Our walkers leave.
It's different in middle school, I get confused, because there's bus kids, there's town bus
I know what
kids.
you're talking about.
3 minutes difference or something?
Technically, it's
Adventure
true.
is 80%. You don't know what time school starts and stops anyway.
Right, yeah. We always know what time it starts because we don't, my kids don't want to be tardy, but as far as what time it gets out,
Whenever they come out.
I don't think it's a deal breaker one way or the other.
yeah, it's minutes.
Yeah, I think we could take a motion in a second to adjourn the public hearing.
So moved.
Got a motion in a second to adjourn the public hearing. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, so let's move right into our regular board meeting. And again, I want to welcome everybody here for the third time tonight. Thanks for coming.
We're staying.
You know, usually I read an email from one of the teachers or one of the students, and with the amount of stuff on this board meeting and all of these, I completely forgot to do that. So, you know, obviously we just want to, you know, remind everybody that ESC County empowers all students to become productive, responsible citizens of an ever-changing global society, and I think that's what we need to remember every time we come to these board meetings as a public and as a board. And I know Dr. Feeney thinks about that all day, so that's important. So I would take a motion to approve the agenda as presented. There's no amendments.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second to approve the agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Okay, let's move into consent items. John, you want to take
Yeah,
over?
there's several. sets of minutes, which means I've seen you folks way more than
I didn't think it was gonna stop.
So, did anybody have any questions or corrections for the minutes? Okay. Financial statements, basically no change from last month, which is good news. Preliminarily looked at April today. I'm anticipating something similar for April, so that's good news. As far as the bills go, I only wrote down about a half dozen things, and I'll hit them really quick. Card member services, we address every month. That was for fuel, technology supplies, and some maintenance supplies for some water fountains and stuff. Just below that, Carroll Control Systems. Each of our 4 buildings has a maintenance contract with them, and they take care of all of our heating and ventilation controls, thermostats, all that, boilers. And so a lot of that expense is those maintenance contracts. He's finally getting billed for us for the year. So, about 2/3 of the way down, JMC Computer Service. That is our student database vendor, and that would be next year's license renewal and support contract. You'll see a similar one in nutrition because they pay for their own.
That's a special system, right, John? That's,
Yeah, every school in the state has to have one. There's a half a dozen vendors out there that we use
probably all
GMC.
similar.
Let's back up a little bit, John.
Yep.
DHS cashier.
Okay, it's a Medicaid program. When we provide Medicaid services, we're able to request reimbursement. Part of that process is we have to pay for the service to be done, and then they also get a portion of what we receive, and that one's not in here this month. Bottom line is we do get about 60% back, so whatever we pay out, we get more in revenue. On the next page, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 of them that are tuition. Old Arthur is open enrollment, Rockwell City Litton's open enrollment, Southern Cal's open enrollment, and Storm Lake Community for some tuition, special education. Those 4 add up to roughly $40,000, which is almost 1/3 of your month's bills. So,
That's all passed through, right?
yeah, the open enrollment will all be passed through. We'll see where we land on special ed over here.
Again, that special ed tuition, is that just one student? correct?
It's 2 students for 1 semester. So. In the activity fund, card member services, once again, that was expenses for the Chicago trip and prom, so fundraiser for both of those actually, so should all be fine. On the next page is a bill to Scholastic, and I don't know where that description came from. It says student access fees, and it's not, it's RIF books, and provided by our service organizations, so it runs through there.
Is that something that we get back?
Yeah, that'll be reimbursed. So, then, under the lost fund, Thomas Bell Sales, our small handicap bus that we hope to use next year to run the Storm Lake route, has arrived.
Is that the cost that we thought it'd be? I thought it would be significantly cheaper than that. What was I thinking about? No, that's right.
Yeah, that's right.
So then the $4,000 on this page before, that's
The
Region 12 Transit,
Yeah.
that's where that bus is gonna go to,
That's the
right?
part we're hoping to do in-house next year.
That we will do.
Yes, we will. I think that
Yeah,
since
we
we
wanted
bought
to
the
do
bus, we
in-house
will do
this
it.
year.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's,
Yeah.
the 4,100, is that monthly?
So that'll be
The
great.
payback on that particular bus will be less than 2 years.
Yeah, that's why they did it.
Yeah, and to follow up on that, we're not going to interrupt the student schedule to do it the last 20 days of the school year here. We'll start that next fall.
Right, and the student, I'm guessing, is fairly young, that's why we were really,
Fourth
we
grade.
have quite a few
Yeah.
years left to do it.
Yes.
What is the status on the other 2 buses?
Supposed to be here this week. Supposed to be here.
One question I had, and I know you guys can't answer this, but you could look into it. the Walmart community, middle school vending supplies, my question is that something that we could get locally here in Sac or Lakeview, you know? I think that's kind of important to look into that kind of thing.
I can't answer it actually.
Okay,
Yes. Let me rephrase that. At least last year, when we had the discussion with the student council advisor, said always look local first, and then there wasn't access to some of the product, and so they try to buy local, and then they supplement it through Walmart is what it's been, or out of town, because there were certain products that our local people simply couldn't get, and you're gonna ask me what those products are.
No, I'm not gonna do that.
But so you're saying this isn't, I mean, we spend probably way more than
More than
that.
that.
It's just that this is what we can't get our hands on that the kids obviously must like and we keep buying.
Right. That's my that's how it was last year. I will double check this year to make sure that we're going local.
And let me know if you want any help. I mean, we go through different, and not that they're all local, but I've worked with enough local people too. You guys probably have too. I mean, there's, if we can keep any of it, just if you need help with that, let me know.
That's always been our goal since the vending machine went in, was
Yeah.
to do as much locally as possible.
Thank you.
Anything else? Okay, let's do the bill to Albright Oil for $1561.20.
So moved.
Second?
Motion and a second to approve that bill. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0. Then I'd entertain a motion to approve the minutes, the financial statements, and the bills on account of $267,827.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion and a second, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Okay, move on to number 5, superintendent report.
Got a nice gallery tonight, not one of them came to hear me speak, so we'll keep it extremely short. Why does people laugh when I say that? Just a reminder, baccalaureate and awards night is May 7th here in the auditorium. Commencement is at 2 o'clock on Sunday, May 18th in the high school gym. And then extend congratulations and thank you to a couple of high school teachers and Melissa Salgado and Tammy Vine, and then high school principal Kevin Witter on their. They were asked to present at the Iowa Association or Iowa ASCD conference in Des Moines about their work with concept-based teaching to a statewide audience, and they did that last week, I believe it was, and they did it well. I'm done. That was good, wasn't it?
Do we want to, Mike, do you have anything to say about your report that you gave us here? In particular?
Just to, if you would give me your blessings on the summer school, we would like to continue with our summer school. Mary Ann Peters and Nancy Hanley are our two leaders, our two teacher leaders in the summer school process. And we would like to start getting our information out so we can get that enrollment started.
And I really don't think that even needs to be a board decision. I mean, it can be if you want it to be, we'll have to go back and amend the agenda. But we're talking doing similar to what we've done in the past, maybe some minor modifications, so be it, that's your guys', you're the experts. And we'll fund it out of modified allowable growth and or at risk, which is what we've done in the past, so you got my blessing.
I would say the same thing, Mike. This is something that we've done for the last 3 or 4 years, and I think it's important for the kids. And if we have kids who want to do it, I think we should continue to do it.
Thank you.
Anybody have any questions for Mike? Thanks for coming, by the way, Mike. Okay, let's move on to unfinished business. Discuss and/or approve 2014-15 calendar. We did a public hearing on it, so I guess
that.
Go ahead.
You know, Doug, you're here. great suggestion. The issue that you have no way of really knowing about is that those particular 2 days are contract days because of the way parent-teacher conferences go. So it's a great suggestion, but it can't happen.
Can the contract be modified? Would the teachers be in favor of modifying that contract?
We go through negotiations every year, and this was not something that's negotiated. It has to, by law, you have to go through the negotiation process. So, and I'm not minimizing your idea, it's a really good thought. It's just, it's not one that can happen right now.
Do we have any discussion as board members? Personally, I think we've done enough work on the calendar. I think my personal thought on the calendar is, 10 minutes is in between the 15 and the 5. Personally, if we had 5, 10, or 15, it's not going to make any difference to me. I think 10's in the middle, so that's an easy one to pick.
I agree. The only reason I would go for the 15 is just to offer us that little bit more cushion because of where we live. We live in Iowa.
Yeah.
So, I mean.
Either one of those options actually increases instructional time for the status quo.
So I guess I would take a motion to approve the calendar that we have in front of us.
And do you want to include the lengthening of school day, or do you want that in a separate one? 'Cause that decision
No.
needs to be made.
Yeah, I think we should do that all at the same time, the calendar and whatever time we want to add to it.
I've kind of gone on record saying I didn't want to add any time to the day. Then I started thinking, well, with the way snow days have to be handled now, I thought, well, 5 minutes would give you almost 3 days of snow days. It would kind of be built in. Plus, still leave a little cushion. I lean more towards 5, but originally, I guess when I said I want to leave the time alone, we were talking 15 and 30 and 45 minutes. So I guess the 10-minute thing doesn't bug me as bad as it used to, I guess. I was never a fan of 15 minutes. I was never a fan of half hour or 45 minutes kind of thing, which went away a long time ago. But I don't want to get stuck in the mud saying I don't want to add any time. I guess I'd be okay with 10 minutes.
I'll make the motion to go the 10 minutes and approve the 2014-15 East County calendar.
I'll second that.
Okay, we got a motion and a second to approve the draft Z5 and add 10 minutes, 10 minutes to the day. Yep, we're done, so we're running out of letters. All approved, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Carried 5-0.
Do you have an opinion on the start time and 5 minutes before, 5 minutes at the end? Or do you want me just to?
The only thing I would say about that is the earlier the kids have to get on the bus, the earlier they have to get up. If we get them out later, they're already up, so I don't know what that hurts.
I'd probably go back and ask the teachers their thoughts on that one too.
I mean, as far as a board goes, I don't have the expertise to say when we should start or
We'll
not.
take care of it then.
I think that's a good
As long as you're okay with us.
Let's start at 8:17. That's an odd number. Everybody knows what time it is.
We're all gonna be here at 8:15 to round it up. Can I just ask this? We right now, our late bus kids are dismissed at 3:50, and our contract time is 3:50. So if we extended at the end of the day, it would be 4 o'clock.
Who's gonna stay with them?
And then it's 3:50 is our contract time. And I'm not one that worries about contract, but that's gonna be an issue if everybody has to stay 10 more minutes, so.
That's the latest that the kids stay, right? That's the
Yes,
last.
that's the
bus
last
route.
dismissal.
That's the last one.
So it's just something to think about in the process.
We got some work to do on that, and that really has to be administrative, that we have to figure that out.
Okay.
And if the board's okay with it, I will send out to the teachers what your preference on that is, because I don't have an opinion. I really don't. You're in the trenches.
Well, and if the bus routes are modified a little, that might take care of the problem.
I was gonna say, yeah.
Okay. Okay, so moving on then, let's talk about number 6, letter B, discussion and or approval of the 2014-15 elementary sections. This is something that we've had a work session on. We talked about it in the board meeting about it. Not sure that we have any new information, but Mike is here if we have any questions. I guess personally, I think we need to have transitional kindergarten. I think that needs to be offered. And, you know, I'm not sure that we had 100% good numbers, whether we're gonna have kids that go to transitional kindergarten or kindergarten. And, you know, I'm not sure that everybody knows that at this point in time, but I would say that if we had it here in SAC, that would be fine. That's where we've housed it before. Last year we had several kids, so we had to have it in both schools. I don't know, what are you guys' feelings on? I know this is gonna be a hot topic, so.
It
Can
is.
I-
One
can
thing
I
that I would,
speak,
I was just
Yeah.
gonna say, one thing I would like to, is kind
Um,
of see what, if he's talked to teachers and.
And I understand how that this is a very hard-filled issue for a lot of people. There's a lot of parents, there's a lot of people with kids, I mean, teachers, everyone. And I know how hard this is. Since the April board meeting, I have continued to review the numbers. I mean, when you take the 51 and the 36 and you put it on paper and you try and break them apart, and you do this and you do that. I've been doing my best to try and review those numbers in both elementary centers. I've also presented those numbers with some staff members, just sat down and say, okay, you look at these numbers and how would you work these numbers? How would that, so I get a little bit different perspective on what that would be. I met at length with Angela, our TK teacher, who has been the TK teacher since it was started a few years ago when probably when Kevin came.
It was.
Because we both were frantically trying to find a transitional kindergartner about a week before school started anyway. I can tell you that Angela, you know, is an advocate for the TK program and believes that if the integrity of the program is kept in place, it can be very beneficial for our students. And the intent was to really help some of our students that were low functioning to be able to catch up and make some real gains with low numbers. That being said, I believe we both agree that if the integrity of the program is compromised, where you just let anybody in that you want to let in, the benefits are less than ideal, and students could be equally served by a regular classroom grouping and differentiated instruction. And that's kind of what we talk about now at the elementary level, is taking students from where they're at and moving them forward. Thus, after meeting with her, talking to different people, you know, what I really look at then is I look at, you know, are we better serving our kids if we would take the 51 students in the Wall Lake Center, divide them up into 3 sections and have 17 in each section, and then take the 36 students at Sac City and divide them into 2 sections and have a section of 18 and 18.
With what class, as kindergarten?
Kindergartens, yes. It's hard to make the 36 work in the Sac City building with the TK program without adding another teacher, kindergarten teacher. But you could do it by just dividing the numbers up and having 18 and 18. And then, I know later in your agenda you're going to approve some resignations. That would mean rehiring a teacher for the Wall Lake building, and just have students of 17 and 17 and 17, similar to the numbers that you have down there now.
Because really, the transitional kindergarten in the Wall Lake Center, the numbers are not all that different from our kindergarten numbers down there.
You're talking about what numbers are you talking about?
The current student enrollment in each, the TK, the kindergarten, and the other kindergarten.
So number of students.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that would, you know, that would mean that we're gonna have to work at really differentiating our instruction, really identifying our low students, which we do through our C4K program and through our RTI process. And you would have fairly equal numbers. And I guess from a personal standpoint, if my child was to be in that situation, I would rather have the equal numbers, to be honest with you. And if, you know, and then on another standpoint, if I was a parent that had a student that needed extra help, I sure would want the numbers to be low enough that you could help my student. And we really have no way of telling, we can't just tell parents, well, Amanda, your child's going to be in TK. It still is a parent option. They can say no at any given time.
But by putting a cap on the TK program, we're telling parents, no, they can't send their kid to TK.
By putting a cap on the program, it is telling the parents of the students that really need the program that they're going to get the help that they need. I really struggled with this. It's really a difficult situation, and that's why, you know, if you went to this 17, 17, and 17, and 18 and 18, there's no transportation, there's no loss of instructional time for those kids. Wall Lake kids stay, Lakeview kids, they stay in that Wall Lake Center. These people stay in the Sac City Center. Now, another thing that you need to consider, if you would, I would be careful about what kind of contract you're going to offer for the next incoming teacher if you're going to keep that section. Our register, we had our preschool registration, and we only had 18 people register for preschool next year at the Wall Lake Center versus the 30 up here. And don't ask me why. I know Kevin's looking at me like, jeepers. Well, I thought the very same thing. We have 3 students that will remain in preschool, but that would mean a class of 21 the following year, which barely gets you to 2 sections of kindergarten the following year, which complicates that whole picture a little bit. And, you know, I just wanted you to know that. Now, those numbers will change, as you had mentioned before, but that's an alarming number to me.
Well, and I think it's important to know what's coming, you know, I mean, all of that.
Well, I would hate to have you I'd hate to have you put me in a position where we're hiring teachers and then we're going to end up giving pink slips the next year because we don't have the numbers.
So by law, my understanding of the law to answer that question about contract is every teacher contract is a continuing contract.
Okay.
Unless
So
you hire them as a substitute teacher, which I wouldn't be in favor of.
right, I wouldn't either. Yeah, I would agree with that.
If there needs to be a reduction, it would have to go through the
process.
So something we'll have to face regardless, I mean, right, with it.
Right. What, okay, that's a new idea to me.
So that, do I have the 17, 17, and 17, prior to this, we're looking at 2 kindergarten, because that's what we have down there already, right? And we only have 1 here, so we do another one here as we knew that we needed.
You would have the same staff.
Mhm.
You're not adding any staff at all. You're
You just don't have a TK.
readjusting.
Basically,
we would take care of that.
Basically, what that suggestion or possibility is removing, we no longer have TK.
We
I mean,
really
in practical
don't have it
terms.
now at one center. We
But-
call it that, but
But in practical terms, that's exactly
Yeah.
what it is, and then everybody goes from preschool into kindergarten.
right.
My question for that, is it, I don't know enough about this. If this is a possibility, do all 3 of those teachers teach the same thing exactly?
Education is pushing us to do differentiated instruction with all of our kids.
you've ever had an opportunity to have a preschooler, they have a gold assessment on social skills, on academic, I mean, it takes students individually through processes.
And there's gonna be differences between, my answer would be, there's gonna be some obvious differences between, you walk from Lisa's over to Diane's, but generally speaking, they're on the same page. Right?
There's not too obvious.
Well, there's a lot of differentiated instruction though with reading groups and word reading groups. They're at their level.
Sure.
So there is a lot of that right now.
Sure. Understood.
So then would we be looking at retaining those students that essentially could be in TK and then don't meet the standards of kindergarten? I mean, my concern is we can differentiate, like, yes, we differentiate and we work our tails off to get those students to what the state requires. But then if they don't get there and they could have been in TK, I just.
Well, then it would be just like any other grade. You know, if I have a second grader that doesn't meet the criteria, you have the option. And it really, you know, there's those options all the way through.
I guess what I'm trying to figure out in my head here, financially, of course, that it makes perfect sense. And I get that. But we're always talking about, is this in the best interest of kids? And got to wrestle with that a little bit. I see where you're coming from.
I think the research tells you that
All over the board.
there's not much benefit to it at all, really. And I hate saying that because I know Angela and I talked at length about how she thought for the lower students.
And when you were talking earlier about the integrity of the program, that's really what you're talking about, is
Yeah.
kids that
The
are
ability
qualified
to
based
qualify. Yeah.
on the criteria to go. That's really what you're talking about.
Right, yeah, and the teacher to student ratio and the, yes, being able to be selective in your students so you make sure that you can actually provide the instruction to help move those students.
Well, really, then, we're talking really, I'm gonna think out loud, so bear with me. Really, we're talking about three options for the TK part of this. One is not have a TK program and have 5 sections of kindergarten with balanced sections. And no transporting of kids, just that's how it is. Another option that Chris talked about, I believe, at the beginning is have one section of TK available at one of the 2 sites you mentioned here, which is where this whole thing started 4 years ago. Limit that to maintain this integrity that you're talking about to 12 to 14 something. Or the third option would be, and each of these has financial ramifications, I'm just trying to frame this. Third option would be is that you run a TK program at both elementaries and try to stay within the 12 to 14 kids, which Mike would come back and say that statistically we shouldn't have that many academic, but what that does is it puts it back to the parents that if they would like an additional year for their kid for maturity reasons or whatever. Seems to me we have those 3 options.
And option 2 and 3 would
Cost
cause an addition, you'd have to hire an additional teacher.
They all have financial ramifications.
Okay, so just so I am clear, I know I've asked this before, so you're probably hating that I'm asking it again. The kindergarten cannot go back to a 2-year program?
The kindergarten is 4-year-olds.
No.
But it can be 5. Right? Didn't the law change on that, that 5-year-olds can go to that?
To preschool?
To begin to go to TK.
Not TK,
Not
to the
TK.
old beginnergarten, which is now the
Kindergarten.
preschool.
Yeah, I believe there are some schools doing it. I don't think you would get the blessing of some of the people to do that because students with IEPs can come in at age 3. And you have a real difference in age when you have a 3-year-old and an older 5-year-old in there.
Okay.
My answer is I didn't know that, if that's the case.
I was gonna say, the reason we started the transitional kindergarten was legally we couldn't be funded for a 4-year-old program and have 5-year-olds in there.
I think you have some school districts, small school
They got
districts
that
that
changed.
have low numbers that they granted some leeway in some of that.
And I asked that because, like I said, I had 3 of my kids that went through the program, and
It's not like it was when your kids
right,
went through there.
right, and I'm just wondering, I mean,
Yeah.
is that even, can we go, we loved it, and TK wasn't there for us then, and we used that in its place.
Well, I love the idea of not having to hire another teacher, because with the numbers that are coming up, the way it sounds, there's a good chance we'd have to let a teacher go or 2 or whatever. If this is a doable situation, I'd say we try and do what the first option was. Split them 17, 17, 17, and 18 and 18.
I'm not for that. I think we need a TK program, because I think it's just the natural progression of kindergarten, TK, kindergarten. I don't want to see any child held back in kindergarten if we have that option of TK.
How do you feel about 1? Is that enough, do you think?
Yeah, well, if the numbers,
Warrant that.
yeah. I don't really like to see a cap put on it, because I'm afraid that's gonna tell some parents,
It
we
does,
don't
but
want
then
our
it kind
kids.
of ruins the purpose of us doing, you know what I mean? I mean, if you have that many kids in there.
Yeah, but if we have the TK program, that lowers the numbers of kindergarten. Those kids that would go into you know.
To what? Do we have those numbers? I mean, about? If we do 1 TK, since we've talked
So
with
you got
them,
51 in the Wall Lake Center, and you got 36 in the Sac City Center.
and how many
Now,
would?
depending on, well, really, I got no direction right now, because if you don't put a cap on it, then we have no idea where we're headed. I mean, integrity, you have to understand, if the integrity of the program is compromised, and if I had a student that was low functioning, and I was gonna put it in a class that's gonna have higher numbers than the regular kindergarten class, why would I not put my child in that other kindergarten class, not the TK? They're gonna get more one-to-one attention, which then really kind of, it really takes the integrity of the program, and where is that then?
And when we went to Adel, they said you better have a cap on it, otherwise you're going to have this explosion and if you're gonna have a mess.
How do you feel about that?
Well, it wouldn't cost us anything more, because right now we have 2 teachers. Last year we had 2 teachers, so we wouldn't be hiring another
This
teacher.
year's the first one we had to.
But if you-
I understand
if
that.
you
This
have
year,
thir-
we
if you
have 2
36
teachers.
You could take 12 students out of the Sac City Center alone and put them in TK, and you still have 24 kindergarten students in this building for the 1 teacher. And I hate to say it, she went through big numbers this year. I don't want to put her through big numbers again next year.
I agree with that.
I think Lisa's point is to accomplish everything that was just said, if you were to keep 2 sections of TK and all that goes with that discussion, we would have to be looking to hire an additional kindergarten teacher in this building to do justice to the early childhood numbers. That's your other option would be is, we've got the Sac Elementary first grade teacher here. I'm just making a point, Nancy, so don't slap me. The other option is if you currently have 25 kids going into first grade, that you move one of the first grade teachers into the kindergarten. Yeah, you know, I'm not even suggesting that's a good idea, that's why I wanted to preface it. But in the spirit of laying that out, that is an option. Then the other thing that hasn't been addressed, and the 2 of them are sitting together there, Dallas is sitting with 25 kids in 4th grade here next year, and there are some needs present in that class. So it's a perfect world, we go out and hire 3 teachers, but we've had that discussion, it's not a perfect world. So that really is the scenario that you have, and how you balance the financial responsibility that's needed with what's best for kids. What's best for kids is probably to hire 3 teachers, but that shouldn't happen for financial reasons. I said I was going to say.
To throw another thing into Dallas's 25 numbers, I'm assuming that there is a possibility of a special needs child coming back, which then puts you up to 26.
But they're one-on-one, so.
Well, there's also a chance that the flip side's also true, that 25 could be 23 tomorrow too.
Right. Well, we don't want to hope for that, that's what
No,
I'm saying.
no.
I'm saying teacher line.
It's just hard to
No,
really
we don't wanna-
forecast that.
But we know that this child is in, and that there is a child, that I don't have any idea what that program is like, but there is a child in that grade. Just so that you guys are aware of that, there's a child in that grade that we already have a high number in that isn't currently. Well, I don't know if it's just the parent in me, but I can say that so far, my oldest is in 6th grade. And not to say anything about any other grade, but my kids seem to come out of 1st grade knowing a whole lot. I think 1st grade is a pretty important year. I think the younger years are really, really important years. We all probably vary a little bit as to what is better than the rest, but what do you?
We got both 1st grade teachers, sorry.
Yes, understand. 3 of them, she is too.
You're hidden behind the heads there. You need to pick Nancy out. Tough one, folks.
I would say too, and she's gonna hate me for saying this, but I did ask somebody to come tonight just because, and does not mean that I'm advocating for anything, but a parent that has a child in their 2nd year of kindergarten, because all of this is being talked about, so if she feels like saying anything about how her year is gone.
Hello.
Looks like she does.
My Ryan has gone to kindergarten twice and has had Mrs. Breimer 12 times. And he is doing great. The 1st year he struggled, and we had to adjust his workload, and because he was the youngest one. This year he has excelled and is doing awesome and is right on track. So that was, that's what I wanted to say. That going to kindergarten twice is okay.
It's doable.
Yes.
It might not be optimal, it's doable, and I'm not saying I am for it or against it, neither, so I hope everybody thinks that. I don't want anybody, it's just nice, and there's somebody that's experiencing it right now. Where that falls into all of this, I don't know. And as I have heard lots of people, I've talked to Dr. Feeney, there are so many, there's not a wrong answer when it comes to this stuff, that's what's hard in making these decisions, if there's no right or wrong. It's the part about this I don't like, because we all want the same thing, we all do.
Should I say something? Can I say something?
Yeah.
The other thought that I did want to say was Mrs. Frymuth, Tiffany, did tell us that we should probably send our child to TK. And as a parent, me and my husband.
Oh, I didn't say it, but.
Well, she
from the year
suggested, she suggested that TK would probably, because he was on the younger side. And we worked hard all summer, and my husband and I decided to send him to TK, or to kindergarten. So it was our choice. It always is the parent's choice on where they want to.
You just found out that it wasn't, you found out later? Yeah.
So that's what I'm going to say too.
Well, we've heard several different sides and several different scenarios. I came in here with my mind made up. now, maybe it's not made up. I don't know where we go. I mean,
How would we
honestly.
work that number for the, I don't know enough about how we put that cap on. I mean, obviously you take all the kids in the district, so you could have 7 kids from the south side and 7 kids, you know, as far as who's coming here.
That, if you stay with the process that we've used in the past, it is by need. The neediest, parents have the option of, we will show them the data. We will ask them then, would it be your preference to go to a transitional kindergarten? And then they would tell us yes or no, and then we would continue that through that process until we got to the number that we wanted in that class.
And the data,
And it
the
could
data is
come-
the
it
goal
could come-
assessment.
Could come from one building, I mean, like.
But it would be
but
prioritized on needs based on the goal assessment for the entire district to one
Goal
site is what you're
assessment,
articulating.
The AD's assessment, yeah, all our assessments.
So Mike, your recommendation would be that we split the 51 and the 36 into 5 sections, right?
You know, yeah, then you wouldn't have the transportation, they'd be in school, I mean, there'd be more instructional time. I'm not saying that there won't be parents that were saying at some point that maybe we'd like another year in kindergarten, just like you heard from our parent here. That is a possibility, but I don't know that you get away from the number. It's like the 18 that I told you about earlier. I'd love to be able to say, I don't have to, not that I don't enjoy coming to your board meetings, but I don't have to come to the board meeting in April next year and worry about sections and numbers. It just seems like, the numbers are changing. So, that would be my, that would be my recommendation to accommodate that, and then I would just be challenging teachers, we would work together, trying to give them the instruction that they need. And Chris, I can guarantee you that students that are in need at the East County School District, they don't fall through the cracks here. We talk about them in our RTI processes. We give them extra help when they need extra help, whether it's title, at-risk help, or even looking through special, if we needed to go to a special ed consultant and see what we can do there. They won't fall through the cracks. But you would equal out your numbers and be able to work with that. I just don't know how else to, without hiring again, I don't know how else to get those numbers to work out. And then next year, if numbers don't change, then you're going to look at a whole different scenario.
One comment I'd like to make is if you do offer the TK program, that helps with your numbers next year because those parents are anticipating having it the following year.
Because we could have students that stay rather than look for a program outside of ours.
Yes.
If we don't have it.
And if they go to TK, they know they're not going to kindergarten until the following year. And just as a little bit of clarification, the very first year we had the program, part of the reason we offered the TK, which I guess I'm remembering it a little bit differently than Mike, but we had several students who had not gone to the kindergarten because their parents wanted to hold them back and not send them till the following year. And then when the program passed and we got the state money, they weren't allowed to go, and so they were going nowhere because those parents didn't want to send them to kindergarten, so we added them to the TK program.
I believe everybody's gone through the same process all the years. And if you would like to talk to Angela and I would be glad to talk to you about that. We haven't changed the process since we started.
Well, it looks like we haven't gotten any further than when you left, so.
Go for it, Chris.
I mean, I honestly don't know what to say. I really don't. I mean, we've got half and half, looks like to me. Part of me tells that we need to listen to Brent and not hire any teachers. Part of me tells me that we need to have a TK section.
Well, I think when you look at fourth grade, the decisions at that is gonna be moving kids, you don't wanna hire at that position. So that's gonna weigh in on that too.
And I don't think that we can get out of this whole thing once we start talking about the other grades without, it seems to me that we're going to be replacing the one that's leaving and possibly hiring one position, correct? I don't think we can get away with, I don't think we want, everything, all the scenarios I've looked at, I mean, so this.
What grade are we talking about here now, Amanda? What grade are you talking about?
Wherever it would, let's see. Got myself so confused. You and I talked, can you help?
The three areas, as we talked about before, really that need decisions made, and it needs to be made tonight for planning purposes, obviously, is depending on what you do with the TK kindergarten program. And then you have 25 kids in first grade in this building next year, and you have 25 kids in fourth grade in this building. And so if you look at adding a resource, it's how you resource that is really your question. And if you were not to have if you choose not to have a TK program and run 5 sections, that would move Angela, I assume Angela, into one of the kindergarten, the second kindergarten position here. You'd hire one person, and if you want to hire one person, it would go to fourth grade, because that's where the need would be.
But what Mike's saying here, actually, as I looked at it again, we really wouldn't have to hire another person, as you stated here. I just
Not at the kindergarten level, but that fourth grade position, unless you want to start moving students, then you're gonna have exactly what Kevin said.
Right, okay.
So, I'm confused with the fourth grade. We've got how many kids in this building?
25.
25 today.
And we possibly could have 26. We have 8 students that could be coming back.
And we have one teacher, right?
1.5.
1.5 they worked with this year.
That won't be the case next year.
No.
There won't be 1.5.
It won't be, it'll
There
be
will
one.
There'll be 2 sections.
But
of
with
third
that
grade.
same group of kids.
Right, the same group of kids has 1.5 this year.
We're going down to 1.
There'll
And
be
another child
one to
possibly
meet.
coming back.
Because the split teacher is going to have to stay in third grade to accommodate
For
the
the
second
second
grade
grade coming up.
Because there's 36 kids in that
Yeah.
class.
They could really use 3 teachers now.
So that really is what your scenario is what I articulated, and you gotta, somebody needs, my opinion would be just to put a motion on the floor and see, and then have further discussion, see where it goes.
And where are we at, just real quick on that before we go, where are we at with moving kids? Is anybody feeling like that's something that we could do?
I don't think we got any response from the letter, did we?
No, I mean for fourth grade, but just in exploring our options. I don't know, are any of the other fourth grade teachers here?
No.
Okay, I wouldn't know by looking at their faces. I don't know
Oh, you mean moving fourth grade kids from
wherever,
to Sac?
to avoid that extra teacher. You know, if, say Mike's thing here, and Kevin just said we'd hire somebody for fourth grade to avoid moving anything.
Well, it's not gonna save much because there's 23 and 22 kids in a section down in fourth grade.
No, it would be the power of teaching together is what we would do.
Oh.
That's why I didn't get a chance, I didn't talk to the other 2 fourth grade teachers, and I wanted to, it's my own fault. I've talked a little bit to Dallas about what her thoughts were on that, having them in a building together and teaching together, and what does that mean to 3 pretty good sized classes? Is that a plus?
Yeah.
How much of a plus? Does it outweigh the bad part of having to move kids back? I don't know. But we're talking a position of how many thousands of dollars that we either do or don't.
Well, and what you, I mean, certainly it's a possibility, and I don't think any teacher I've ever met would say not having colleagues next door under the same roof that'd be a positive. Absolutely, we know that. The negative there, and I guess I'm pretty opposed to that, just not because I don't think it's a great idea, because I do, for the educational piece of it, but you're talking about moving, well, you're either talking about moving 25 kids down to the Wall Lake building or 45 or whatever up to the SAC building for 1 year, and then they have to transition again to the middle school. Again, I'm not an expert in this area, but anything that I have read points to the fact that transitions at the elementary age are challenging academically, to the point that some have shown up to a year's worth of loss because of that 1 year transition.
Is there anything though pointing to what they could gain if the teachers roll together, or is that just something that's?
It would be,
Do you know what I mean, as far as-
I know what you're saying, and I don't have the answer. I haven't seen it. It's a conundrum.
I don't like the idea of moving kids 1 year and then the next.
No, it would be, the only thing I would propose is that it be continuing. And, you know, then that.
I think what Chris is alluding to is that it's for 1 year regardless, and then
Whichever
there's
building, and then
another
move
transition to the 5th grade.
Gotcha. Yeah, so, and as you've said before, then we'd go back to doing, I mean,
You
if
did-
you're gonna do it, do 3rd and 4th grade, so that they have 2 years together before the move. And then
I'm personally, I'm really struggling with 25 kids in one section here and 23 and 22 there. What's the difference between 2 kids? And I can't answer that, but to me,
It depends on the kids.
There's 22 and 23 that'll be in 1st grade down there next year.
fourth grade.
Oh, 4th grade.
I don't know, their numbers down there.
What will 4th grade have?
But you know, Chris, on the other side of that coin, you flip that coin over, I hate to go back and forth, but go to the kindergarten. Say we take 5 students out of, we only take 5 preschool students for the transitional kindergarten out of that 51, which leaves 45. That option would be then, we're gonna take those 45 kids and split them up again with the other 2 kindergarten teachers, and those would be the numbers that they're gonna get. And I wouldn't be real happy with that either, because they would be both in the low 20s in kindergarten classes.
Yeah, to me, younger age kids are more difficult, obviously, than
Well, they just need more one-to-one
Right.
attention if you can get it to them. I mean,
Well, in light of the legislation too, and I think I had this discussion with any number of people, that on a limited resource, my recommendation will always be is to use additional resources at the earliest literacy age, which is at the lower elementary, especially in light of the fact of the 3rd grade checkpoint, whatever they're calling it now, is looming out there. It's a tough one, folks, it really is.
Well, I make a motion that we hire a teacher to be used, whether it be kindergarten, TK at that lower level, at the administration's discretion. Along with that also, though, I'd like to see an aide hired, a quality aide hired,
I like that better.
to be used in that 4th grade section. And if anybody else wants to add anything, feel free.
No, let's not add, let's.
I would feel more comfortable making the decision, you know?
We need to get a second.
Okay, we got a motion, we need to get a second, and then we can have some discussion.
Come on, guys.
You're saying that you want a TK program,
Mhm.
right?
Yes, yes, I'd like to have the TK program.
I would second that.
Okay, we got a motion and a second, now let's have some discussion. So, first thing we're gonna do is, in this motion, first thing we're gonna do is hire a teacher. No specification on that. And then the second thing we're gonna do is we're gonna have an aide, hire a quality aide, I guess we could say. I think any aide would argue that they're all quality.
Not here.
No, but if you give give a person the right training or some training on how to be a good aide,
Right.
associate, there's gotta be help out there somewhere.
So in that motion, and this is part of the discussion, in that motion, we would continue to keep one section of TK and SAC and one section of TK and Wall Lake. Is that right?
I'm leaving that up to administration. I mean,
Because if we hire one teacher,
I guess what I interpreted with the motion is this, if I could jump in, and
Yeah.
I may be
Please do.
totally back-asswards here. What I interpreted in the motion is that it would be a TK program housed, one section of TK housed at Sac Elementary, could be either place, but Sac Elementary. We would hire an additional teacher, I'm processing here, so bear with me. The resignation that we have of the PK teacher at Wall Lake would become a kindergarten teacher at Sac Elementary, and then we would hire an additional teacher beyond that? No.
Motion on the floor is for one additional teacher for the 5-year-old programs and one additional aide for the 4th grade programs. That's the
So we'd have
motion on
two
the floor.
sections, in that scenario, we'd have two sections of first grade here. We'd have two sections of kindergarten in both places. We'd have one section of 4th grade with an associate.
Keep one TK program, just
And-
deciding where it is.
And then
Right.
the TK program would be housed at one site. Is that what your motion was?
that's doable.
No,
No?
I think what you have a TK section at both centers. You have a kindergarten section here also.
So that would have to be a new hire.
So you're hiring back.
You have to have, yeah, you're gonna have to have, your new hire is gonna be for this kindergarten section.
I'm just kidding.
Because we're gonna rehire, or there's gonna be a position
replace,
open.
yeah, but
But that'll be replaced by that position down
So
there,
the
right?
bottom line is, if you have two TK program, or two TK classrooms, we're gonna have to hire a kindergarten teacher here.
Yes.
And
But if
Then
the
an
numbers did
associate.
not warrant the two sections of TK, which
may or may not.
may or may not, then you move that teacher up here to the,
Kindergarten.
No, we're already going. No, we're already going to
I don't understand. How many students are here, how many there?
actually, if we just replace the teacher that's leaving
For TK, right?
for TK, well,
That's who's currently leaving?
that's who's currently leaving. But if we replace her and hire an associate, no, we still need a kindergarten.
We need a
that's
kindergarten teacher
for up
in this
here.
building, minimum.
Yeah.
So let's do that, let's do
But
one
that's
TK, let's do
one
two kindergarten here.
TK. If we have one TK section, and then that teacher that we're replacing comes up here to kindergarten, and then an associate.
Yes. If you go with one TK program, you would be hiring an associate for 4th grade, is what I heard you say. Because the TK currently there would come up and be the kindergarten teacher here. Two sections of 1st grade, leaves an associate in 4th grade. Yeah, that frames it. Oh, my head hurts.
It's not that,
It's
not that
we all need
confusing.
to understand though, whatever those numbers turn out to be, if there ends up being 21, if it ends up being in the low 20s for kindergarten classes at the Wall Lake Center or up here, then we're gonna have to live with that.
Because one TK section, when you start dividing those numbers up, there's gonna be some sections of 20-some kids in kindergarten. That's why I said 17, because I can guarantee numbers. That's the only way I can guarantee.
So that's what we get out of that proposal, is
You
guaranteed
get
lower
guaranteed
numbers.
numbers, yeah.
And how do we weigh that?
Because isn't it 25, 26?
Can you
25 and 26.
Because when we penciled out, it's like 25 and 26
Can you
on
classify
kindergarten.
certain kids as TK
What's that?
in the
If we have the
kindergarten program? So
TK,
that
the
way
ones
they
that
can't
have
just
said that
move
they're
up
gonna go to TK,
to
you're gonna
first
put
grade?
25 and 26 down in the kindergarten down wallet.
So they would, they need,
So they'd have as much as TIF has now.
yeah, they would need another teacher too. We wouldn't want that to happen for kindergarten.
And that's why I suggested do the 3 for kindergarten instead of doing the TK, but that's taking away TK. If you have one TK and just the kids that are going to K that have said that they're
Math
going,
is right.
you're putting 25 kids in one class and 26 in the other one in the Wall Lake building.
For having their TK.
Based on current
By-
knowledge of who's gonna go
Or,
into
yeah,
TK.
based on the current
Right.
numbers.
So you're saying you
Tack
take
on
TK away
TK.
altogether, you even everything out.
That's not what Jay proposed.
No, you need to bring us back.
Mike,
I hear you.
you tell me, quiet, quiet.
Yeah, guys, come
Hey,
on, let's let John talk.
this is long enough, okay, 40 minutes. Mike,
Yes,
tell me if I'm wrong.
right.
We currently have 5 teachers teaching kindergarten and transitional kindergarten.
5. Yes.
5.
Currently, yes.
Currently.
Yes.
We're not worried about a resignation.
No,
Okay,
that's
that's
convenient.
another deal. We
Right.
have 5.
Yep, we got 5 right now.
Jay made a motion to hire an additional teacher for TKK.
Yep,
Okay, so next year you will have 6 if the motion passes,
right, yes, exactly.
okay?
And do you,
And in that motion, they would desire a TK program at your discretion, is what I heard, okay?
Yep.
So can you answer the question, with the 6 teachers for that age group, will we likely have a group over 20? With 6 teachers?
Likely?
With 6 teachers, because we're talking how many kids total?
51 and 36.
36 and
So
87.
if you would take 14 out of the 51,
Okay,
or 15,
then you'd be at,
36.
you're at 36, and you
18
have
and
18 and 18. So
Yeah.
yes, that definitely can work out. But again, if you are going to call it a TK program, I can't force your child,
Right.
John, to take TK.
right.
So if I don't get that 15 number,
But if it's
then those
at,
numbers change.
if it's at your discretion, then all you're directed to do is to offer a TK program, and you have 1 or 2 students at one side or the other, or
Mhm.
4, you may decide that we should transport those, and that section becomes another kindergarten section. Because you have the 6 teachers to work with that age group.
Right, yes.
That's
That sounds like
that's
the
what's on
most
floor.
logical thing I've heard all night.
And that is the motion, as I understood it, that's on the floor.
And that I second.
Yes.
Good job.
So-
Brett left.
And
He's coming back.
But we won't leave here tonight knowing where the teachers are going, correct?
I would say probably correct. We won't know exactly where they're gonna go. But we know that, we know that we won't have 25 kids in our
And so it will be primarily Dr. Feeney and Mike, correct?
That's what the motion was, yes.
And I would hope that they would involve the teachers in that too, but, you know. that's-
Brent, we
that's up to them.
clarified the motion that we currently have 5 teachers at that level.
Okay.
Jay's motion is for an additional, so there will be 6 at that level if approved. And
At that level, meaning TK.
Right. What about the 4th grade associate or not?
that was pretty clear cut. It's still in the motion.
Okay.
So we have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion among the board members? Dr. Feeney? You're sitting quiet.
That's my nature.
That's unusual.
I'm just gonna throw this out there
Yeah.
because I'll hate myself if I don't. It doesn't seem, and I don't know if anybody else, being in the middle, it doesn't seem that they, and maybe I'm wrong, correct me if I'm wrong, it doesn't seem that they have the same views on it. That would be my only.
Who's they?
Dr. Feeney and Mike, he has one proposal. Am I wrong or no? Am I?
I don't know that we're different, I just didn't know that proposal until tonight, so.
I was just trying to get to the easiest numbers that we could and be able to tell parents, we're gonna have a constant number of kids in those classes versus.
So as long as you guys can work it out and involve the teachers, wonderful.
I think this is the most logical thing I've heard all night, and if there's no other discussion, I would call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
Aye.
4-1. Okay,
Next one's gonna seem like.
this one should be very difficult. New business, discuss and or approve quitclaim deed. John or Dr. Green, want
Yeah,
to take that?
I got it.
You definitely
John's got it.
5 years before I was born,
We won't say how long ago that was.
the Lakeview Auburn School District owned 1 acre of land at the intersection of 71 and 196 that apparently an old schoolhouse sat on. They sold it to Hostings. The deed was never recorded. And now with some stuff going on with the DOT, they need the deed to that property. So we have a quitclaim deed that needs to be approved by the board for that 1 acre property.
I'll make that motion.
Yeah, go ahead.
Got a motion and a second to approve the quitclaim deed. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carried. New business, 7B, discuss and or approve operational sharing. This is something that is new this year, and, I think this is, obviously, every meeting that we have, we talk about finances, and I think this is something that we definitely need to look into, and I'm gonna let John talk a little bit more about it, so he can explain it to you guys.
Basically, the state's made available additional funds if you share operational positions, superintendent, transportation director, human resources, curriculum director, I think there's 7 of them. But we've been approached by our WEVA to share transportation director and human resources. They approved those at their meeting, their last meeting. They would each come with an additional weighting of 5 students, which equates to roughly $32,000. So each position that is shared, our district would receive that in additional funding. We've gone down with our transportation director and visited with our WEVA and started ironing out some of those details. So that one right now is a little clearer than human resources may be. Jennifer Carlisle does our human resource piece in our office. And
Can I interrupt you just for a second? So this would be ESAC County employees being shared with our WEVA. Our WEVA is a need, and we have that.
that's right. And so that one, even if you approve that one tonight, I won't promise you that's gonna happen. We're still ironing out those details. The transportation directors that go, we talked with Phil and with their superintendent. But
Is
since,
that 1 employee or employees?
yes, an employee, and they will reimburse us 20%, because 1 day a week is kind of how we have it ironed out, or 8 hours a week.
20% of the salary.
Yeah. Phil's thoughts were he'd probably be down there 1 morning or afternoon a week, and then the rest of the work he could do from his office here in SAC. That was kind of the initial thought process. On the HR thing, it'd probably be similar. A lot of it could be done electronically.
Don't we also bill them back though for 20% of the?
Yeah, then we bill back to our waiver for 20% of that contract. So
we
that's
get- we
that
get the
piece.
sharing money plus the billing back.
We get the sharing money plus 20% that we bill them for the
It's gonna be
summer.
roughly
40, 50,000 each
And
position.
that lasts for how
Each
long?
position?
Each position.
For each one.
What was the other one again? The HR?
HR and resources.
Who do we?
Motion for,
Okay, gotcha.
so,
That's a
it's a
5-year?
five-year program.
How are we doing it? Like, just a lump sum? How does it work?
Each fall, we add 5 students for each position to our enrollment, so then it comes in our state aid.
And this, the money part of this would start in 2016-17.
Yeah, we count them next fall, and then that enrollment counts. It's a year delayed in the revenues count.
So I think we should talk about that first, and then maybe,
Then we'll roll in.
since we've already done some work on that, on those two, transportation director and human resources. Personally, I mean, I don't think there's a reason why we shouldn't do it.
Yeah, if our people can handle it and,
Yeah.
you know, it doesn't affect us
They're
negatively.
good, yeah.
What kind of contract on this, in this example, we hold the contract on both these people, they're gonna be shared. Just yearly contracts, is that what our Weaver wants, as far as
They will, yeah, we'll have a 2080,
sharing?
a 2080 sharing agreement like we had between Wally Governance and SAG.
Okay.
That automatically renews in the spring unless you give notice by March 1st.
Whatever we decide, okay. Okay.
Yeah, so if this ends up being a bad idea, we're only in it
For a year.
No, will the director, the people that we're sharing, will their salaries get increased due to that? No? No?
When WLVA and SAC shared, they did not. I did SAC's payroll for several years for sharing money, 4 or 5, which is part of my job. If additional time's added or something's done, I would assume it would be at that point.
How's transportation handled? I mean, as far as, not transportation, I'm sorry, but like when they drive down there, who reimburses who for the mileage and things like that?
They'll pay us,
Okay.
we'll charge them mileage for that.
Separate, so it'll be.
Okay.
Yeah, Phil will work up a bill for all his expenses.
Charging them monthly or annually?
Probably do the mileage type thing, just either semesters or yearly. Won't mess with it one time. Do the salary probably semesters.
I'd
Yeah.
say yes.
I'd take a motion on.
So move.
So we got a motion and a second to share transportation director and human resources with Arleva, depending on what we work out with human resources. Got a motion and a second, all approve, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Okay, then let's, same thing, talking about sharing, but let's talk about, and I think, John, maybe get into, we can share up to 21 students.
Right. Those 2 positions we just talked about are 5 students each, and the maximum you can have in a year is 21. So, superintendent's obviously one of the areas you can share, that's worth 8 students. So if we were to do the 2 we just talked about and a superintendent, we'd be at 18. And our discussion last month talked about also sharing curriculum director with whoever we would share superintendent with, which is getting ahead of ourselves at this point, but the curriculum director is weighted at 3 students. So, given the 2 we just approved, if we do superintendent and curriculum director, we end up at the 21, which is the maximum the state would allow.
And that's roughly $125,000
A year.
in increased revenue. Okay, so, about that, Marcia, you had a question?
I did, I just wanted a clarification on the amount. I heard a couple of figures with those 2 that you just approved.
Okay.
Yeah, it'll be
5 students.
5 students, and students are 6,100 or whatever right now, so for 30,000, 31.
Whatever 10 times 6,100 is.
See, it's a moving target because it's 5 students is what it really is. This year there were 6,100, next year there's 6,400. Hopefully the following years there'll be more.
Right now it'd be
Can you
61,000.
just give a bottom line?
$61,000 for those 2 positions.
For each or just
Total.
total? For those 2, that'd be per
per year.
Per year, per district, it's not split.
Okay.
Okay, so what are our thoughts in sharing the superintendent and the curriculum director?
I think we need to explore that option, but I also think timeliness is of the utmost. I mean,
Oh, yeah, no question.
we're already middle to end of April, and I mean, it's, we don't, I know that Dr. Feeney's gonna be here and guide until, was it June 1? 30th, sorry. Try to get you out too soon, but,
I get that.
I mean, we need to have somebody that can step in right away and keep the train on the tracks
We,
on a daily basis.
I'll, at your last meeting, I think in your packet was the email that I sent, that was directed by the board. To all the contiguous districts. It was also sent to the Lorenz Marathon Acting Superintendent and to the Coon Rapids Bayard Board President. Lorenz did not reply. Coon Rapids basically said they'd be very interested in exploring something with us. They've got a couple things going right now, but depending on what happens tonight, I can sure get in touch with him again.
With Coon?
With Coon, yeah. I'm not sure where they're at. But as of a week or so ago, when you had me send that communication out, they had some interest. As we go around us, if we start to the north, Noah Fonda, can't make that work. Shayla Kreslin didn't reply. OABCIG I didn't hear from. Did you hear from Nick? There's both of those districts are already shared, so they're going to get the extra weighting. But neither one of those replied. Arweva replied with some interest, and Carol replied and had me forward it to their board president, which I did, and I have not heard back from the board president yet. And South Central replied with interest and requested to meet with the board president and vice president, and he did that. I don't remember when, but Jeff was over and met with those two. So I guess in summary, South Central and Arweva have some interest. South Central's been a little more aggressive at this point, and we probably need to let Coon Rapids know what we're thinking or see where they're at. I'd heard that they might be gonna share with Manny, I think, but
They were exploring
I don't know where that's at. That's everything I've got.
Did we kind of wait till tonight? Have we put it out there to that the position's open to not, have we advertised an actual superintendent? So that's all been.
What was advertised on Teach Iowa was that the possibility of being interested in a shared superintendent, which is what the discussion was in the last meeting. No advertisements taking place for the full-time superintendent.
I think we need to have you check back with Coon and find out what's going on there, John.
Coon, does Coon have a superintendent right now? No, they're looking.
Theirs is open. If you were to share with Coon, consider sharing with Coon Rapids Bayard, you'd be hiring a new person.
So,
South Central, before we go any farther, after Jeff met with Chris and Brent, he did ask for a meeting with either the board or the rest of the board individually. He doesn't care. And I have no preference either. But he has some interest and he'd like to meet with the board. He has a board meeting tonight, and this is on their agenda, as well as possibly sharing Jeff with Lorenz. So there's some stuff, it's happening all around us right now, so.
Well, I personally think that if we share a superintendent, we need to try to share that same curriculum director with that school district, just so we have some kind of Consistency and continuity, yeah, that's just a,
That could put a real damper on what we're trying to
Yeah.
accomplish right now with having our teachers do what. My question, and maybe nobody has the answer, how are we in comparison with other districts our size as far as this whole sharing thing? We're pretty, a decent sized district. Are there other districts our size that also, that share and then it becomes, I mean.
Yeah, that's a good question. Southern Cal is 900 students, so they're almost exactly like us. They're bigger in size.
But they're not currently.
Which I thought was amazing.
But they're not shared, I mean, they have.
They're gonna share next year
Right,
with
they're-
somebody.
With somebody, so they've already decided that, you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Not officially, but yes.
But, okay.
They told us they were gonna share with somebody.
What's their radius? What is ours? Is it something like 300 square?
300.
We're at 305 square miles, and I think
430
South Central is about 400,
Yeah.
a little more.
So they're looking at this, and they're bigger than us. So.
I
Yeah,
think it's,
size-wise.
Mhm.
I just, I don't know what you call them, but the guidelines on this recently came out, and I think there's a lot of people doing some different things.
And, you know, Jeff has been shared, he shared with Brent and I for 10 years now, and I'm thinking he's been a superintendent for maybe 14. So for the majority of his tenure, he's been shared. And then one time he was shared between Rockwell City and IKM Manning. That's a big distance. Personally, I like the idea of sharing superintendents.
Initially, when it was first brought to my attention, or when, because I wasn't here for the meeting that you guys had,
Right.
and I told this to Dr. Beatty, I said, you know, well, that's like saying, well, what, your job is, you know, look at what one person does, and all of a sudden now we're saying a half of a person can do that, and I'm like,
And I think that's part of the reason why John
I
thought
don't wanna do that.
or Jay said that we need to also share the curriculum director, because that's been a huge part of what Dr. Beaty's been doing as a curriculum direction. One of the things that South Central does not have is a curriculum director.
Nor do we, correct?
Well, not now.
Right,
and,
right.
and with that said, maybe it's, we share with them, but yet we generate the curriculum director and we share that with them
back and
too.
forth. And
I mean,
that was a question I was gonna ask you, because that is a possibility.
Then we hold the contract for.
I don't know, I heard Judy Miller would be interested in that.
Might have had a misunderstanding.
Wrong, Judy.
So when it comes to hiring a firm to find a new superintendent, I mean, what road are we taking here? Are we exploring all of our, does it sound great? Absolutely. Look at what's out there. The incentives financially
Yeah.
seem pretty great. But on the flip side, I mean, are we just taking that and going that direction?
No, I don't think we're doing anything right now. I think that's what, you know, we're discussing that right now as a board to see what we want to do. My personal feeling is I like the sharing. I like that avenue. And, you know, it's a thing that we would probably do for 1 year. We would probably have a 1-year contract with them, see how it works out. And if it works good, then we'll continue to do it, I would guess.
There's nothing that cautions you about sharing. I mean, I'm gonna say it over and over. I know.
Yeah, no, it did at first, but then you think about Jeff Cruz has been doing it for, 10 years of his 14-year career. I mean, seems like it's doable.
I'm sure there's lots of them that have been, I mean.
Yeah. And
Right, I just
John,
fall back
did you tell me
on if it's
that-
great for our kids, if it's having one superintendent to ourselves, how does that impact our kids? Or are we saying that it doesn't at all?
Well, I don't know about that. I
Do you know
would
what
say
I,
it
and
would,
I'm just
yeah.
trying to figure out where that is, as far
Right.
as, is it something that we have to do?
Do we have to do it?
Mr. King?
Yeah, I mean, I think you could answer that quite well.
You know, when I first heard the discussion, obviously I get the financial part of this, that borders on a no-brainer, that part of it. My question would be is, I think I made the statement to the entire board at the last meeting that I work more than half-time, and good, bad, or indifferent, that is fact. So the curriculum piece of this is absolutely critical if this has a chance of working. What you would give up with a shared superintendent, it's not that I'm that visible, but I try to get into each of the buildings at least weekly and visit some classrooms and stuff. You will give that up. There isn't going to be time for this person. The person will be an office person, and they'll be as involved as they humanly can. But that's, if you're asking my opinion, which you really weren't, but I'm gonna share it anyway. What you will give up is the visibility. I've tried to be as visible in communities as possible. That's not something that's probably going to be possible. And that's up for you to decide on how you weigh those things, but it's not humanly possible to do everything that I attempted to do maybe in halftime. And I'm not opposed to the sharing, I get it, but you have to go in with your eyes open that there will be some visibility differences regardless of who you select.
I also think that we need to do this timely. I mean, we can't wait till June 20th and decide we're gonna go another route and hire a full-time superintendent. We need to decide whether we're gonna share with somebody fairly quick or we're gonna hire somebody. Yeah.
I agree.
I mean, we need to set some kind of timeline for that.
Sure. And if I could again, please do. Again, I don't have a dog in this fight, you understand, but I really care deeply about what happens to this district. And a suggestion would be is you have two people within close proximity. I would suggest that the board meet with those people and finish that, or if you want to meet just with one of them based on criteria, I don't care. Get that done and get it done now. And if that seems like a good match, then fine. If it doesn't, then you better get moving and find a replacement. Just my 2 cents worth.
I agree with that. I think that's something that we should do. Now, do we want to do it as a whole board, or do we want to do it individually?
I personally think you do it as a whole board so you can hear what everybody has to say.
Okay.
I mean, that's just my opinion. Opinions vary.
Yes, they do. I don't mind that. Means that we need to set another meeting, which, you know, it's something that we got.
You need to post the meeting, since all 5 of you will be here. You can go into exempt session for the interview part of it, call it an interview, if that's what you choose to do. You need 24 hours to post it, so this is Monday. I would encourage you to move quickly.
We'll have to see. I'm assuming we're talking about both our Wayville and South Central, since those are the two that responded with interest.
Did Carol say they were interested too?
Superintendent didn't indicate anything other than to forward it to the board president, whichever.
Oh, okay.
You know what happened with Philipponda?
They're sharing with Albert City.
And that's too much?
They're gonna stay in that arrangement.
Okay. So they can't do more than one then?
You can.
You can,
You
that was
could.
their choice.
Yeah,
Okay.
but their board, or his board
Said no?
said no.
And I guess take it a step further, I wouldn't dink around truthfully with Coon Rapids at this point, because there you're talking about
Hiring.
hiring a completely new person. If that comes to pass.
Are
it'll
we
be a-
shutting the door, because we're wanting to move on this, because I understand the timeline, are we shutting the door to applicants?
No, I think what we need to do right now is we need to set a meeting to talk with Arweva and South Central as a board. We need to do that relatively quickly, meaning this week if possible. And then we decide from there, do we want to share or do we want to hire a superintendent?
In the meantime, can we accept applications, or does a firm have to be involved with all that costly business that goes along with it?
We've received a couple already.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think.
That's what I was wondering, as an independent superintendent, not sharing.
Yeah,
I
I
just
don't think a
want-
firm has to be involved.
You know, if we're gathering those during this process as something to fall back on and not spending any money on a firm to do it for us, what does that hurt?
No, it doesn't hurt anything. I don't have any problem with that at all. I would say that if we are gonna hire a superintendent, I would never even think of attempting to do that on our own.
Right, I'm just saying, get applicants and you kind of see who you have and you know what I mean? Kind of get a feel for who's even interested.
It might send mixed messages to are we even South Central Road? I'd rather have the meetings first. If you're talking about getting it done in a week or 10 days, I don't think you're out much. That hiring firm can get you 10 resumes as soon as you call them. So, I mean, that's my opinion on it.
So then let's talk about the meeting. What do we have going on this week?
Almost have to have 2 meetings, wouldn't you? I mean,
You could do one at 6 o'clock and one at 8.
yeah, that's true.
Are we doing both? We don't want to do both the districts, we're wanting to meet with both?
If they're able to, I'm fine with it. You know, they can both be here on whatever day. It's gonna be up to you calling and seeing.
Yeah, I'll call and see what they got available.
So is that the way we want to do it? Call
I
and let
think
them
we're
set
better.
the date?
We better see what they have available in the next 7 days or whatever.
Yeah, then go back. Okay. Is that all right with everybody here? Okay, so.
Whatever we
let's-
set up, I will get to the media. If there's not time to publish it, I realize that, but we'll still make sure you're notified.
But the interview part of it will go into exempt session. It's not, that won't be a public
That
meeting.
can't be it.
It's
That'll
a
be the
personnel.
applicants.
Well, it's up to the
It's up
applicant.
to
They
the
have
applicant.
the choice of whether they go into closed session or not. If they don't request it, then it can be open. That's their choice.
Are you talking to the superintendent or are you talking to their board?
Superintendent.
Because they're not coming without their board's permission. So.
Right.
no.
Okay, so I think we can move on from that one. C, discuss and or approve request to use school grounds for fireworks. You know, this is something that we've done for how many years?
I'll make the motion to approve that.
Thank you, Lisa.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to approve the use of the school grounds for fireworks here in SAC. All approved, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. So then, the next thing that we're gonna talk about, D and E, we're gonna do together. Discussion and or approval of 2014-15 school fees. The reason we're gonna do those two together is because the breakfast and lunch prices are in the school fees. So, no need to do that twice. And the only ones that have changed are the adult meals. Adult breakfast went up by a quarter, adult lunch went up by 30 cents, and I guess the salad bar went up by a quarter. So
Is that all state
Which
mandated?
I was gonna say that's mandated by the state.
No, they mandated with the double asterisk that we had to change mid-year this year.
Oh,
These ones for the adults are at the recommendation, I think, of food service.
So none of these are.
we did that mid-year.
We did that mid-year.
Right, last year. Yeah, it's still, I mean, it's still pretty cheap.
I'll make that motion to approve the school fees and breakfast and lunch prices for 2014-15.
Second.
Get a motion and a second to approve the fees as listed. All approved, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Carries 5-0. Discuss and or approve ESC class of graduates. 97 of them.
Any
Yeah.
changes or anything on it?
Not since the printing, but you'll want to make your motion subject to successful completion of all graduation requirements.
So moved.
Second.
You were waiting for me to say that.
Got a motion and a second, how Dr. Feeney said it. All approved, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Okay, discussion of superintendent evaluation. We discussed this at the last meeting, but we need to get this in by May 1st, get these to me by May 1st. Then I put them together, and then I think we could do it at our May board meeting.
Or June, whatever you want. But Again, just as a clarification, it seems somewhat anticlimactic, obviously, but one of the requirements that they will look at in the DE site visit next year is whether you have done a written formal superintendent's eval. Where you have been here, I've had one done, you don't want to have that lapse in the files going into the site visit.
Did we get the forms to do it on? They just misplaced them.
Should have been in last month's. But
It was in the
we get-
packet.
we
I
get-
set mine off in a
Filed it with
special spot.
everything else.
I just don't know where that's at in a second.
So, John, would you get each one of us another evaluation?
You can even send it
I'm
electronically.
gonna find mine. I'm gonna find mine. 'Cause I put it in a super special spot.
Make sure you put that in the minutes that Lisa didn't need one.
Jay needs one?
Well, you know, I'm the slower one.
Yeah.
I have mine, amazing.
I bet I can find
I
it.
think mine's right here at my desk.
For sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the timeline we get back the stuff to Chris was what?
May 1st.
So 2 weeks.
John, don't send me one yet.
Just let me know.
So, hey, send it to him in about 10 days. Okay?
You've got it right before the
And then, I mean, if we do it at the May meeting, it'll give me 2.5 weeks to put them together, and I think I can get that done. Okay, personnel, we've got a few resignations, 4 of them, it looks like. Sherry Butterfield, high school food service. Sue Frank, elementary associate. Nicole McCullough was the TK teacher at Wall Lake Elementary School, and Teresa Tigas for the K through 8 yearbook.
And there's one more.
Is there one more?
The letter's in your packet from Angie Horsley as
Oh, that's right.
teacher associate.
Can I ask, this is all new to me too, okay, so do we replace all of those?
The food service one will be up to the food service, whether she needs to replace or not, and if so, we'll advertise and get that taken care of. The associates will be at principal discretion, and we work on that throughout the summer with the principals.
And obviously,
And then
Nikki McCullough, that, we decided that tonight,
that'll
so.
be-
I make the motion, we accept the resignations as written, thank them for the year or years of service, and wish them the best of luck.
Second.
A motion and a second to approve the resignations as listed. All approve, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Now, I just lost my place.
Contracts.
I got it. Okay, contracts. We don't have any. Right? Do we
Make the
still don't have
motion, we
any?
approve it.
No, at this point. Okay, discuss future agenda items and set dates. Monday, May 19th work for everybody? It's our regularly scheduled meeting.
And John, you're gonna get back to us with dates for the interview process?
Yep. Will that be back at Lakeview now?
It's coming.
I think so. May 19th at high school, at 6.
Don't have any meetings before.
No meeting before the
No
meeting?
hearings.
Yeah.
No, let's stick to the one that we get paid for every month.
Things on the agenda at this point would be, we need to do the first reading of Board Policy Series 600. We've been putting that off monthly. So that'll be a first reading in May, and then a final approval of that in June. I know that the Ed Spotlight we put off the last 2 months, and that would be a middle school presentation on their discussion on standards-based grading. And we invariably will have a whole lot more by then, but those are the 2 things I know. I would think we'll have contracts and stuff to approve.
We don't have anything from this meeting though, right? We went through everything. Yeah.
Yes.
Good job tonight. That it? Brett?
I'm gonna adjourn.
Second.
Motion in a second, all opposed, say aye.
Aye.
We have